Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we're talking about ESEE's wasp, the Avispa. Before us we have an ESEE Avispa. That would be a BRK 1301, and it is a really kind of a nice knife. Like the Zancudo we looked at the other day, we've got nylon scales, nice black hardware on this side. We flip it over, and same thing. They've color matched the hardware to the side of the knife, which is really, really nice. And we'll get into this pocket clip here in a minute. For now, we're going to go ahead and look through the knife. Standoffs are nothing fancy, but they do the job, and for the price of the knife, generally less than 30 bucks or thereabouts, it's a pretty good deal. Once again, we have the lanyard holes, not tubed, so be aware of that. And we have a very nice action. Opens up quite nicely, almost as good as a Rat Model 1. Not quite, but almost as good. And now that we've got it open, just like our Zancudo, we've got that kind of spear point blade. Some would call it a drop point, but it looks more like a spear to me. Anyhow, the main point here is this sharpening choil. They did a really, really good job with that. They have given us a sharpening choil that goes out just past the plunge grind to where the edge starts, so that we can sharpen all the way down to it. And it is full flat ground. One interesting thing to note here, though, is we have this deal where they put different sized thumb studs on each side of the knife. And I did some measuring, and I understand why they did it. I understand why they did it on the Zancudo. It's because of the difference in handle material thickness. But I don't like it. Give me two of the big ones and be done with it. This odd size stuff, one, I'm going to take them out at some point, and I'm going to stick them in backwards and then have everything all goofed up. But I would just prefer the symmetry of having them the same. And we do have a little jimping right here, and whenever you put your hand around this thing, this is a hand-filling knife, even as thin as it is, and this thing is only 0.36 thick, so it's a thin knife for its size. And just like a Rat 1, everything fits, works well. It really doesn't matter how you want to get a hold of it, it is there for you. And one thing they did do for us here is, if you can see down in there, they skeletonized this liner. And along with skeletonizing the liner, they drilled it so that we have tip up, tip down, left hand, right hand, blade forward, blade back, whatever you want to do. So I wish they had done that with the Zancudo, but they didn't. They did here with the Avispa. I do want to bring the Zancudo out because there's another thing that kind of bothers me. If you see here, the Zancudo and the Avispa, two knives from the same company, and they don't match up. And sure, they're somewhat similar, but they don't match up. And I don't have a Rat 1 here. Dave has the last Rat I had, and I hope you're enjoying that Rat, Dave. But if you set a Rat 1 and a Rat 2 side by side, they're almost identical, except for size. Blade length, the Rat 2 is a little thinner, but it's like you took a Rat 1 and left it in the dryer too long. And that's not the case here. We have this different shape back here, and I don't know. It works well. You know, both the handles work extremely well. But it's just that consistency of branding that I guess kind of bothers me. And make no mistakes, the Avispa here is a large knife. It's 5 inches long when it's closed. Whenever you got this thing open, it's 8.5 inches long with a blade length of just under 3.5 inches. It does come in at a reasonable weight though, of about a little over 4.4 ounces. So, not too bad. And like I said, it's thin. 0.365. And it carries pretty darn well for being such a big knife. However, we're going to come to my biggest gripe. Tip up right hand carry. The position the pocket clip is in right now. If you just stick this pocket clip on here and run the screws in and tighten them down, the pocket clip rides directly on the lock bar, and it makes it very, very hard to open or close the knife with that extra pocket clip pressure on the lock bar. As you can see here, I've adjusted this a little bit. I don't know how well you can see that, but that pocket clip is just barely riding on the frame, allowing us to be able to open and close this knife with some amount of ease. Now, I have a fix for this, and I'll have a video out on it soon, but if you have one of these bone stock and you plan on carrying tip up right hand and you're afraid of using a drill press or some hand tools, you might want to be careful about that. And might as well look at our wasp here. That is kind of a nice touch on these knives. I'm not usually a big fan of the animal stuff on the knives, like the cats on the Sanran moos and whatnot. But in this case, I kind of like it. And now for a little size comparison. First, we have a Spyderco Delica. It's definitely a lot bigger than a Delica. And here we have an Endura, about the same size as an Endura. Ontario Rat Model 1. Now this is an interesting one because these two knives kind of got started from the same source, Randall's Adventure Training. And there's a bunch of saga or drama or whatever you want to call it that brought us from this knife to this knife for Randall's Adventure Training. That's of no consequence to us. That's their legal problems. But I do want to make this apparent to you. Whenever they went from the Rat 2 to the Avispa, it grew in height. Now, it didn't grow to Spyderco proportions with the big hump back here for the Spidey hole, but it did grow in height. However, it got thinner. Now, that's one of those things that you have to decide for yourself. Which one works better for you, thinner or taller. And anyhow, to continue, we have our Mini Griptilian and our Cryo G10. This is the small Cryo. So, anyhow, it's a big knife. And seems like a pretty good one. Alright guys, so what did you think of the Avispa? Myself, I'm disappointed. The Avispa could have been a wonderful knife. It could have been a grand slam, but they barely made a double out of it. It carries well for a big knife. It really does. But this pocket clip issue is a major concern. You know, tip up right hand carry, that's the majority of people out there. And if the clip doesn't work right, then it's a miss, a big miss. Now, I'm going to have a video sometime in the next few weeks on how to fix this rather easily, but it shouldn't come from the factory like this. You know, and as nice as the knife is, as good as the action is, and it's good, guys, the attention to detail, the fit and finish, just like the Zancudo, everything here is just wonderful. You know, it's right up there with the Ontario Rats. You know, and they say that maybe they're made in the same factory. I don't know about that. All I know is the fit and finish and the details are just as good as the Rats. But, people weren't thinking about the pocket clip and how that would work out. A slight angle change, just a couple of degrees would have made a huge difference. And then we have the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is Ontario Knife Company and the Rat Model 1 that's now available in general production in D2 steel. Now, for EDC uses, D2 steel is going to be wonderful for all of us, as long as you know how to sharpen a knife. Now, D2 is a rather hard steel, and if you are not fairly experienced sharpening knives, you may want to start with the AUS-8, and that's one place AUS-8 does really shine. If you're trying to learn how to sharpen knives and trying to learn how to get those really good edges or micro beveling or anything like that, AUS-8 is a good place to start because it's an easily sharpenable steel. But for everyday use, kind of like I found with the Zancudo, doing flooring, making 50 or so score cuts a day, this knife needed to be sharpened and not stropped. It needed to hit at least the fine stones on the sharp maker at the end of the day. Would it still cut paper? Yes, but it wasn't sharp. And that's what we're going to get out of the Avispa with the AUS-8 in it. Now, you have to look at your use cases. If you are out in the woods running around and you're going to be out there for several days, AUS-8 may be your choice. It may be what you want because you're not going to have to carry a whole bunch of sharpening equipment. One sharpening rod, really doesn't matter what grit it is, just some kind of diamond rod, Smith's or whatever, and you'll be able to get an edge back on it, or even just about anything abrasive will do the trick. So in that use case, the AUS-8 may be the right choice. But for everyday carry, at $32 for the Rat 1 in D2, you've taken the value proposition here and really cranked it down several notches. So, maybe ESEE and BRK will move along and get some D2 steel in these knives. I don't know. But it makes it really hard to recommend this knife over a Rat 1 at this point. But if you do want the AUS-8, if AUS-8's your thing, or you're trying to learn how to sharpen knives, or you go on those sorts of treks outdoors, this is a great knife. Fit and finish is wonderful. We'll need to fix this pocket clip thing, but like I said, here in a few days I'll have something up on how to fix this, and I think it's going to be pretty easy. But anyhow, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.